This was a relatively easier RC. It's from the text genre, something which most of us are comfortable with. There is one clear idea, so finding the author's viewpoint is easy, and there are also a couple of examples to help us understand it better. As a result of that, I think they've gone for primarily inferential questions, but even there seem to be a couple of questions which we could solve while reading the passage. So if you look at the first question, because it specifically seems to be about the Ebola misdiagnosis case, we could probably read about that and look to answer this question. And same for the third question. It seems to be about a particular experiment. Ebola is something that I can remember a lot easier than Utrecht University. So let me keep this open and I'll keep the word Ebola in mind. Now let's start with the passage. As software improves, the people using it become less likely to sharpen their own know-how or improve their own knowledge. Applications that offer lots of prompts and tips are often to blame. Simpler, less solicitous programs push people harder to think, act, and learn. So the first paragraph, it's quite small, right? We have just two sentences, but these two sentences are enough for us to understand the author's view. As software is becoming better and better, people that are using this software, we are not working on improving our own knowledge. And the author is also making it clear that it's not us humans to blame. They're blaming the applications. Why? Any application which is more complicated, which has a lot of prompts and tips, they are the ones which may not push us to think. Whereas if we have simpler apps or simpler programs, they could still push us to think. So these are the applications that are to blame, or the apps that are to blame. So in a way, we can say that software is essentially inversely proportional to our own knowledge. As software becomes better, our own knowledge or our know-how seems to become worse. And this is especially true when the software seems to have a lot of bells and whistles to help us out. 10 years ago, information scientists at Utrecht University in the Netherlands had a group of people carry out complicated analytical and planning tasks using either rudimentary software that provided no assistance or sophisticated software that provided a great deal of aid. Now, this is of course important for this question. So let's understand what these scientists are doing. So they are asking people to carry out complicated tasks, right? So these are complicated analysis and planning tasks, which probably will need a fair amount of logical reasoning and analysis and things like that, right? Now we have two options. Either we are getting rudimentary software, simpler, more basic software, which is not providing any assistance, or sophisticated software, which is giving a lot of assistance. So they have a group of subjects, right? Probably half of them would be given the rudimentary software and the other half would be given the sophisticated software. Now, in case if you don't know the meaning of rudimentary, you could infer it either from this part that provided no assistance, so that means not super helpful, or you can also infer it from, it should be something which is the opposite of sophisticated, right? So if we're doing a test and the only thing which is changing, like the tasks are the same, the only thing which is changing is what is the software that we are using. So these probably have to be somewhat opposite in nature. And this is the way that you should really work to infer, because many times in CAT, we will have words which we don't know or concepts which we don't understand. But a lot of times we could still push through and we could understand it in the context. And that's something which you should definitely practice in the daily POV also. So whenever in an article you're reading something and there's an unknown word or idiom or concept, just try to figure it out from the context itself, try to infer it yourself. And then once you're done with finding the POV, definitely make sure that you're Googling the meaning and preferably noting it down and revising it once a week. In fact, I actually recommend this instead of, just mindlessly learning a lot of word lists using rote memorization, because if you are learning it in a contextual manner, it's more likely, the meaning is more likely to stay with you and you're more likely to remember it. So now coming back to the experiment. So what has happened? These scientists, they've taken a group of people and they've given them complex tasks, right? So these are complicated tasks. Half of them have been given sophisticated software, which offers a lot of help. Half of them have been given simple software, which doesn't give much help. The researchers found that people using the simple software developed better strategies, made fewer mistakes, and developed a deeper aptitude for the work, right? So simpler software is working better. The people using the more advanced software, meanwhile, would often aimlessly click around when confronted with a tricky problem. The supposedly helpful software actually short-circuited their thinking and learning. So what is short-circuited their thinking and learning? Their own thinking and learning is not happening. The people who are using the simpler software, they are thinking on their own, they are coming up with better strategies, they're making fewer mistakes, and they're also developing a deeper aptitude for the work, right? So the thinking and the learning aspects both are better with simpler software. But when you have the more advanced, the more sophisticated software, what is happening? They seem to be depending on the software. They are aimlessly clicking around. So on the software, they're trying to click around and try to see how the software is helping them. It almost seems like the software is sort of stopping us from thinking. The next paragraph seems to be going in a different direction. Looks like this example is finished. So let's try to solve this question. It can be inferred that in the Utrecht University experiment, one group of people was aimlessly clicking around because. So the group that was aimlessly clicking around was the group which had the more sophisticated software, right? They were the ones where they were trying to sort of depend on the software itself, right? This was software which was giving them a lot of help. So whenever there was something tricky, they were trying to click around on the software and trying to see if the software is helping them. So we have to go for an option which is somewhat similar to that. They were hoping that the software would help carry out the task. This definitely seems to be right. Let's just look at the other options. They did not have the skill set to address complicated tasks. There's nothing in the paragraph which is suggesting that, you know, the information scientists have sort of taken one group of people who are brainier and given them the simpler software, and one group of people who have less skills and they've got the better software, right? They've just said that they have a group of people and they've split it. So no way does it suggest that the people themselves are at fault. This is also something which you can infer from the context of the passage itself. The author has been very clear that it's the applications to blame. So when in doubt, why would you blame the people, right? So when the author is saying that it is the applications that are to blame, and that is something which the author is trying to sort of bolster by giving us this example, we are also going to look for an option like that, something which I wouldn't say exactly blames the application, but something which showcases something like this, right? The application is short-circuiting their thinking and learning. So their thinking and learning is not happening. It's not that they don't have the skill set. It's not that they are not intelligent. It is just that because the software has so much, they're not trying to think, or they're almost not able to think and figure out. So we'll eliminate this option. And in the same way, we can also eliminate the fourth option, because again, there's nothing to show that the first group, the group which has a simpler software, was more efficient. So in no way are the people different, right? They've just taken a group. They've probably randomly, split them into two separate groups, and within the subgroups, they have a different type of software each. They wanted to avoid making mistakes is also something which is not given anywhere. So I think this is probably the easiest to eliminate. And we go back to the first option. They're hoping that the software would help carry out something which is also logical. One, we're looking at it in the context of the author's view. And second is that, when they have sophisticated software which is offering a great deal of help, they'll definitely depend on the software. So what we've learned so far is anytime when we have more complicated or, in a way better software, that is something which is reducing our ability to work, or at least it's sort of like, we are depending on the software. We are not really trying to think, or we are not able to think. So we have this university example which is already given. According to philosopher Herbert Dreyfus, our skills get sharper only through practice when we use them regularly to overcome different sorts of difficult challenges. The goal of modern software, by contrast, is to ease our way through such challenges. Arduous, painstaking work is exactly what programmers are most eager to automate. After all, that's where the most immediate efficiency gains tend to lie. In other words, a fundamental tension ripples between the interests of the people doing the automation and the interests of the people doing the work. So the people that are coming up with these apps, the people that are automating the work that we are doing, their interests are a little different from people's interests. Why is that? Because they want to automate, they want to minimize humans doing painful work, hard work, right? But only when we are trying out these difficult challenges, only when we are actually doing the hard work will our skills improve. So there's a lot in this paragraph. Effectively, we know that this is giving us the reason. So usually, if I have a reason, I tend to put a question mark and I explain. I mean, I use it as a symbol for why. You can just write why also, or R for reason or something like that. Definitely make sure that you have these shortcuts before CAT planned and you're utilizing them. That will help you, you in mocks as well as in the actual CAT exam too. Take short notes. Just write, the main point, maybe the POV itself, and use that to answer questions. So what Herbert Dreyfus is saying is that when we are trying to do the hard work ourselves, that is when we learn, that is when our skills get better. The problem is software tends to automate this, right? So that we are not doing as much hard work. So as a result, what is happening? Our own know-how, our own skills are not improving. So the reason for software sort of, reducing our own know-how or keeping it at a certain level is because we humans actually get better with hard work. So here I can probably say somewhat similar to human skills. They are dependent on practicing tough challenges or hard work. And this hard work is what is getting automated by software, right? So software is eliminating it. So if we don't practice hard work, then our skills don't improve. So this is essentially the reason for why software, which is designed to help us actually, is actually negatively impacting us. So quite an important paragraph, lot to learn from this. And let's say if some part of this is tough for you, when you have things like in other words, you know that what is given here is a repetition. It's another way of saying the same thing as what the author is telling us here. So whenever you have something like in other words, if what follows is easy, you can use that to understand the previous part if that is tough, or vice versa. So just make sure to look out for phrases like these. Nevertheless, automation scope continues to widen, an important word, so we'll pay attention to what is following. So even though automation is something which might not be good for us or is not helping us to improve our skills, this is something where its scope continues to widen. So we're having more and more software come out. With the rise of electronic health records, physicians increasingly rely on software templates to guide them through patient exams. The programs incorporate valuable checklists and alerts, but important, so let's look at this part. But they also make medicine more routinized and formulaic and distance doctors from their patients. So since the author is more negative about technology and sort of like, because of the word, but this is what I will focus on. So there are these, electronic health records. So probably, your and my health records and all are kept electronically, right? Are stored digitally. There are good things, but then the issues are that, medicine can become more like a routine, more like a formula, and doctors are distanced from us, right? So they are distanced from their patients. So one particular expert, she's saying that when doctors become screen driven, following a computer's prompts rather than the patient's narrative thread, their thinking can become constricted. So if you see again something similar, right? So initially we were told that the thinking was short circuited. Now we are being told that the thinking might become constricted, might become very, very narrow, more routine and formulaic. If this happens, then this happens. That's it. In the worst cases, they may miss important diagnostic signals. So probably what are diagnostic signals? Let's say if I'm going to the doctor, there are certain symptoms which I have. The doctor could ask me a few questions, and then based on that, just try to diagnose and say that you probably have this issue or that issue or whatever it is, and then come with the medicine. So some of my symptoms or something else which will help the doctor to diagnose what is wrong with me could actually be missed because the doctors become very dependent on technology, advanced technology, which is helping no doubt, but which is also making medicine more routinized, making the doctors thinking more constricted, distancing the doctors from patients, and so on. In a recent paper published in the journal Diagnosis, 3 medical researchers examined the misdiagnosis of whatever T. Duncan, the first person to die of Ebola in the US, important, at again, which the name of the person or the name of the hospital is not that important. There was somebody who died of Ebola, was the first person who died of Ebola. They argue that the digital templates used by the hospital's clinicians to record patient information probably help to induce a kind of tunnel vision. So again, similar, right? Thinking can become constricted. Tunnel vision, you're going in this direction. That's it. You're not seeing all of the other things around you. So again, the digital templates are the ones which have sort of resulted in the hospital's clinicians making a mistake. These highly constrained tools, the researchers write, are optimized for data capture, but at the expense of sacrificing their utility for appropriate triage and diagnosis, leading users to miss the forest for the trees. Medical software, they write, is no replacement for basic history taking, examination skills, and critical thinking. So these tools are constrained. They sort of probably, there's one question after the other question and so on. It must be going in a certain way. So what is it happening? It's optimized for data capture. They can capture a lot of data, but what is happening is the way that they are structured, they are not very helpful. They are not very useful for triage and diagnosis. I'm not sure what is triage, but diagnosis is something which I can understand. So I will infer it from there, but I'll put the meaning for you in the screen. And as a result, what is happening? Users are missing the forest for the trees. So who are these users? Now, given that, this is all medical software, it's anyway given to us that they are clinicians, but we can also infer that these must be doctors or somebody in a medical capacity, right? So what are they doing? They are missing the larger issue because of the smaller issues, right? They're focusing on the individual trees and they're missing out on the forest itself. So software is not going to be sufficient. So again, one more example which is showing us that when people are depending on software, that is something which is leading to misdiagnosis, maybe, leading them to miss larger issues. Why? Because their thinking has become constrained. Either, because of the software, they are not thinking, they're just following the software, or they're thinking in the way that the software is guiding them to, right? More or less a tunnel vision. So a question here is, in the Ebola misdiagnosis case, we can infer that the doctors probably missed the forest for the trees. Now, missing the forest for the trees, like I said, you're focusing on the smaller aspects and you are missing the wider issue. In this case, they probably misdiagnosed the person. They would have not realized that this guy, right, Eric Duncan, he actually had Ebola. So we are looking for something where the software is sort of constricting their thinking or leading them astray a bit. The data collected were not sufficient for appropriate triage. We know that the data itself is not the problem, it is the way the software works. So this I can eliminate, right? This option is suggesting that they needed more data, whereas the researchers are saying that we need to forget about the data, we need to forget about the medical software and actually engage with the patient ourselves, right? The software is what is hindering us, but it's not the amount of data that's collected. The digital templates force them to acquire tunnel vision. This could be fine because it's sort of putting the blame on digital templates, but just the way that it's written, right, force them to acquire tunnel vision. It just seems to have taken all of this a little literally. So we'll hold on to this option in case if there's something better, then we'll go for that. Otherwise, we'll come back to option 2. They use the wrong type of digital templates for the case. Again, it's not about you use software A, but if you would have used software B, it would have helped. Or what these researchers and what our authors saying is that the software is the root cause, right? So it's not about replacing one type of software with slightly different software, because ultimately it will do the same thing. They were led by the data processed by digital templates. This is actually better, right? They were led by the data. So the digital templates which they had, right? So that sort of made them think in a certain direction. Maybe as a result of that, they missed the bigger issue, which in this case is Ebola. This is also written much better than the digital templates force them to acquire tunnel vision. Right? This just, suggests like, oh, there's like a tyrant that's coming in, forcing us to do something. That's not the case. Just given the way the software was developed, the software was designed, this is what has happened. So not go for something which is a little bit more extreme like this. We'll go for the fourth option instead. 1 and 3, of course, are wrong, right? Because we know that it's the software which is leading to all of these errors. So by now we have a good understanding of the problem, which is that more software, especially more sophisticated and more helpful software with a lot of features, what it does is it prevents us from doing things ourselves. And doing things ourselves, especially facing tough challenges, is what helps us to improve our skills. And when software automates that, our own skills we are not able to improve. Sometimes we end up making mistakes also, and we are not able to figure things out ourselves, right? Now in the last paragraph, the author is actually giving a solution. There's an alternative. As always, the first sentence guides us. In human-centered automation, the talents of people take precedence. So there's human-centered automation where people's talents are the ones which are up front and center. In this model, software plays an essential but secondary role. So people play the major role, and then software plays a secondary role. So what does the software do? It takes over routine functions that a human operator has already mastered, issues alerts when unexpected situations arise, provides fresh information that expands the operator's perspective, and counters the biases that often distort human thinking. The technology becomes the expert's partner, not the expert's replacement. So the solution for this is human-centered automation. So what is human-centered automation? The major role is going to be played by humans. Software is either taking up routine activities, or it could help the human if there's something new information which they don't have, or if they are making a mistake, like maybe they are biased in some way, so the software can step in and help. So the primary thing is being done by the human. In the context of the passage, all of the following can be considered examples of human-centered automation except. So a lot of the times we have a question like this, especially when there's a particular concept that's explained in a passage. So what I would do is, I would just ask myself here, what are the primary characteristics of this particular concept? In this case, human-centered automation, the primary characteristic is that humans are going to play a major role. Software is going to play a secondary role. It will help the human if the human doesn't know something, or if it's some routine activity. So we're looking for something like that. Anything which is like that, we will eliminate. The option which doesn't sort of put the human being front and center, where maybe software is taking on a more major role, that would be the right answer here. A smart home resident that changes the temperature is instructed by the resident. So the resident, the human resident, is giving the instruction to the software. So this definitely is like human-centered automation. What would not be human-centered automation in this context? If the smart home system is changing the temperature automatically, maybe it has access to outside data, preferences and things like that, if it changes the temperature automatically. This what I did, by the way, it's also something which you can try. It's a good small logical reasoning exercise. So not when you are working with a timer, but afterwards you could sort of just try and think, okay, how would this be the right answer, right? Or something like that. Software that offers interpretations when requested by the human operator. So this again, there's some things which maybe the human doesn't know, like maybe some interpretation of some language or some concept or something like that. But again, the human is the one that's taking a primary role, and in this case requesting for help, right? So it's something like this. So we can eliminate this option as well. Software that auto completes text when the user writes an email. So I think majority of us have seen this every time we are writing something these days, whether it's on Gmail, or for that matter even when we are typing text out, out and all, typically a suggestion comes up, right? Or if we are writing something, if it's a mistake, then, a lot of times it gets auto-corrected. Now, if software is auto-completing, right? So if I have written 3 words and the software tries to complete the sentence on its own, then it is a software that's taking the lead and not the human. If I am asking the software to step in and do a spell check or tell me, whether my grammar is correct or what would the appropriate word be here, what's the meaning or something like that, then that would still be human-centered automation. But in this case, what is happening? The software is stepping up and doing the work instead of the human. So this should be the right answer. Looking at the last option, medical software that provides optional feedback on the doctor's analysis of the medical situation. So the doctor has analyzed. You have an option to take feedback if you want to. If you want to, then the software will give you that feedback. So again, it's the human that has the primary role. That's the doctor. So we'll eliminate this and we'll go for the third option here. From the passage, we can infer that the author is apprehensive about the use of sophisticated automation for all of the following reasons, except. This is the only direct question that we have. This is more of a direct multiple. We do have multiple issues with software, primarily that if we are using more of software, especially sophisticated software, it could actually, reduce our own skills, or we are not using our skills. It could also lead to errors, right? So anything around that, we're going to eliminate. Whatever's left becomes the right answer. The right answer could be something which is not an issue at all. Maybe it's irrelevant, or maybe it's an issue which the author has not mentioned. So considering the options, computers could replace humans. Now, this is something which is not given. Typically, you have to interpret computers replacing humans in the context of maybe, my role or my job is being taken away by computers. That's a common worry which a lot of people have. But this particular RC is not about that at all. Now, don't think in terms of, okay, computers replacing humans would mean that computers are, taking this part of the job which we are doing. You have to think of it as replacing humans entirely, in the sense that instead of a doctor being there, instead of a teacher being there, instead of maybe, a lawyer being there, you end up having automate AI or software instead, right? So that is not an apprehension, or that is not a fear which the author has. So this should be the right answer. Now, considering the other options, it stunts the development of its users. This is definitely correct. We've been told that people using this better software, we are less likely to sharpen our own know-how. We're not very good at carrying out analytical and planning tasks if we have more sophisticated software. And of course, we have this entire paragraph which is explaining why. So this is an issue. Stunts is something which is, it sort of like, stops the development. So if someone or something like a plant also is stunted, it's typically, something that's short, something which is not growing, not developing. Let's say if you don't know the meaning, but you know that option 1 is definitely not a worry which the author has, you could still take a chance and eliminate it, right? Don't do it if you've not understood the passage, or if there's something hard in the question. So say, for example, if you don't know apprehensive, you could try to figure out. But if you don't know stunts, it's probably a little easier. You could assume that, okay, this could be negative because this is given, only because I'm really sure that option 1 is not given anyway. If you're doubtful, it'll be a little tricky. You can give it a shot. You can still go for it if it's a 50-50 chance, because you more or less understood everything else. If there are 2 questions like this and you get 1 wrong and 1 right, you're still 2 marks ahead in the game. But don't do it too much. Don't be guessing too much. Use it wisely and use it maybe a few times. And if you feel that there are a lot of words which you don't know, you can look to take our speed vocab. You can look to learn the meanings of unknown words, idioms, concepts, the way I said, so that by the time the CAT exam comes, you are in a better position. It stops users from exercising their minds. This is definitely true. They're saying, it seemed to short circuit their thinking, it constricted their thinking, and so on. So multiple examples which have told us this. It could mislead people. Now, this is true in a specific context. This is true in the context of Ebola, right? The doctors, the clinicians were not able to diagnose that person, I think Mr. Duncan, had Ebola, right? So that is where people were misled. And because they're saying it could mislead people, it's also written in a softer way. It's not a very harsh option. So it's fine to eliminate these. And we'll go for option 1 out here. So that's it for this RC, one of the easier ones. So stay tuned for tomorrow's, where I'll be solving a slightly tougher socio-cultural RC for you.